soul from death, and now, yeah, on. Yes, I live on. I live on. Yes, I live on. Through eternity, I live on. That I live on. Yes, I live on. Through eternity, I live on. All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can everybody see this? Yes, sir. Y'all sure? Because I was going to make y'all move to this side. I didn't know if I should do that because the PowerPoint is on this side, and I just wanted to make sure. But you all can see it? Okay. Before I get started, there's a brother in the audience who's been asking me, he say, but when you going to sing? And I said, I'm preaching right now. He said, I want to hear you sing, so I'll sing a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and get started. Let me see, what can I sing? My head is bound and bloody now from the work that I've tried to. Well, but one day I'll be rewarded with a crown so bright and new that I'll wear a smile so bright there'll be no cause for a frown when I see the mansion, robe and crown. Well, I want a mansion, yeah, I want a robe and glory there, my love, and it always forever let me sing your throne so set lovely ever mansion, robe and crown. See, I'll get started and I'll be here all day. Effectively reaching the millennial generation. Again, all of the speakers before me have touched on a lot of different points dealing with the young people because the main goal of the church is that it must progenerate. It must go forward. It cannot die.
That's right.
But like I told you all in my sermon yesterday, there is a reason. There's a reason that the numbers are dwindling and that the numbers are failing, and why the median age group in most churches is somewhere between 45 and 55. That's the median age group. When the median age group just 20 years ago used to be between 18 and 35.
Right.
20 years ago, that's my generation. That's Generation X. There was, I believe it was a speaker today who said that the reason that the children had to stay in church with us is because they didn't have a car. You know, they had to stay. They couldn't just get up and leave and go where they wanted to go. But you have to understand, technology is a vehicle, as you can see. Technology moves way faster than any car that I can give my son. Because he don't have to listen to the sermon anymore. He can get on the internet, Instagram, Twitter. He didn't say Snapchat. Y'all don't know about Snapchat. Snapchat is a bad program. You can literally take a picture and it'll disappear in like 10 seconds. So some people use that medium for wrongdoing and stuff they shouldn't be doing. And then I recently found out it wasn't just kids using it. Like it was a young lady over here said they got a Twitter page. Yeah, I don't even have a Twitter page. Because I don't be thinking nobody cares what I got to say. But technology has become a vehicle for these young people to escape their reality. But just recently at my daughter's school in Aurora, Colorado, two students. One was 17, the other one was 18. Two girls were getting bullied on Facebook. Now, in a minute, I'm explaining to you why that doesn't make a lot of sense to me in my generation, but why it makes sense to them. But, because to me in my generation, if somebody's bullying me on the phone, I'm going to set the phone down and turn it off. Because, bullying used to be part of life. Somebody would pick on you, and as soon as you got enough nerve, you went over there and handled it, and after that, you was a grown man. It used to be part of life, but no. These kids take it to heart. Some little girl thought that she was going to bully my daughter, because my daughter only stands this tall. She's 17. She don't stand, well, let me give her the right height, because she's going to be mad. She about this tall. And she's pretty. And I'm not saying that because she's my daughter. She really is pretty. But some little boy was liking her. Nothing she did, nothing she said. She didn't write the boy. She didn't entice the boy. She didn't do nothing. He just liked her. And the girl that got jealous was her friend, one of her good friends. Went to Facebook, started all that talking about her. She a goody two-shoes. She a preacher's kid. You know how preacher's kids are. On the Facebook. So as much as you can use it for a good medium, most people don't use it for the right medium. And then come to school with a bunch of girls to beat up on a girl that stands 4'11". And so, like I told you all, they were trying to get a hold of me, but I think I was at the hospital visiting somebody, so I had my phone out. So when they couldn't get me, they got my wife. Now, I'm blessed, holy, and sanctified, and so is she. However, if you mess with her children, she might set some of that Christianity to the side. They got her, and she's a nurse, so once she's busy, she works 12 hours a day. She have to come off of her shift, which is across town. It's in Westminster, Colorado, to Aurora, Colorado. That's 30-something minutes. Then to get over there and find out somebody's trying to fight your child for nothing. She wanted to meet the child's parent, their grandpeople, whoever they could bring. And then when I got to the school, I said, I don't care what you people have to do. Don't call her first. Call me. I'll take care of it. And then they like dealing with me because I'm calm. My wife came in ready to go. She was ready to deal with them. And they said, we can't tell you who it is. But the point I'm trying to make is that the millennial generation and this technology is so brand new to everybody. People just really don't know how to engage in it correctly. Because like he said, it was meant to be able to reach the masses, in a uniform type of direction. But people use it for the wrong reason. Amen. They use it to hustle you. They use it to try to get money out of you. They use it to lie to you, use it to lie on you. And it starts with these children who are just not really prepared for some of this activity. I always like to start out with the verse. John chapter 13, verse 34 through 35. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this all we know that you are my disciples, and if you have love for one another. The only thing we owe each other is love. That's the only thing we owe each other. The Bible says, owe no man. So don't owe anybody any money, but you do owe them a respect and a love that they deserve. Because if they haven't done anything to you, then you have to respect them. But for some reason, the generations have broke down with that. Now, this goes on in a lot of churches and even within my congregation. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in the word and in the conduct and in the love and in the spirit and in faith and in purity. Paul was talking to Timothy, and Timothy was 40 years old. And that was young. And I think it's young now. I'm 42. I think it's kind of young now. But my daughter thinks I'm an old man. And then she gets weirded out because sometimes I listen to rap. She can't believe I listen to rap. Because when you're young, whatever you listen to when you were young, you're going to listen to when you get older. So I'm a 42-year-old man that sometimes listens to Tupac because that's what was out when I was young. And my child is like, you don't know nothing about Tupac. I say, you don't know nothing about Tupac. Nothing. I say, all this weird rap that you all listen to, I can barely understand it. I just turn the radio off. It is really ridiculous. But just to understand, we want to assert the dignity of your office. So what Paul is saying to him is you have to be ready. Even though they may consider you young, you still have to be ready to handle the business of the Lord. What we don't do with our children now is that we don't think that they are able and ready and capable to handle the business of the church. So we keep people in positions longer than, and I know y'all may not want to hear this. Let me tell y'all up front. Everything that I'm going to say you may not agree with. I'll be outside the door if you want to beat me up. But what happens in a lot of our churches is that we keep a lot of people in places that they should not be. They've stayed too long. And because you've stayed too long, the congregation becomes stagnant. Amen. You have to, you're supposed to teach young men, engage young men so that they want to stay in the church and do things in the church. Because if we don't engage them, the streets will engage them. Amen. The club will engage them. Other things will engage them. So there are really, for this conversation, there's 4 generations I want to look at. The first generation was born before 1945. That's the builders. The baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964. Generation X was born between 1965 and 1983. That is me. The millennial generation is born between 1984 and 2002. Leonard, I actually thought you were young, because Leonard is actually my Facebook friend. He don't even know that. I see. I watch Leonard all the time. I know. I got about that many too. But I thought you were younger than that. I didn't know we was the same age. So the GI generation. Of all the things on here, I want you to focus on one thing, and that is that this generation primary concentration is the family. Amen. The family unit was the most important thing to this generation, that it was stable, that it was together, that the father led it. The father led it. So if the father led it the right way, then it translated over to religion, because God is the father of us all. And in this dynamic, with the father being the head of the family and being the leader and taking his family to church, again, if he did it the right way, that translated over to generation to generation to generation. And that's how this generation sees life. It's based on family. It's all about family. My grandmother was always about the family, the family, the family. And I used to say, Mama, the family is crazy. But she didn't care. And when she died, I saw how the family dispersed. Because once this generation started to dissipate, and I'm saying dissipate because I don't want to say die, that's so negative to me. But once it did, you notice that a lot of the generations just started to disperse. They were church members. They were involved. Some of the words on here, don't get mad at some of the words, because this is not my complete study. I also did some work with one of the social workers that I know who helped me put the PowerPoint together, because there were some real studies that were done. But not all the words are Church of Christ, so don't beat me up too bad. But the ministers were paid professionals, employed to do church, preaching, teaching, winning others, marrying. In this generation, the preacher was everything in the church, kind of like now. And traditional, see, I didn't even get that joke. Traditional, predictable worship services. You went to church, they sang, they prayed, they did communion, they did offering, they went home. That was church. And the church was the center of the community. It was the center of culture. Everything that came out of your morality state came from church. They place great importance on being lifelong learners. They enjoy authoritative teaching and preaching, often quite reserved about sharing details of their own spiritual lives, and generally committed to church as a significant institution. That's the most important thing. Church was the center of this culture. Amen. Baby boomer generation. So in this particular sect, the most important part of this is that the family is starting to disintegrate. Because what was introduced as a concept, but was always known, is divorce. It became more prevalent. In the generations before this generation, women took a lot of things. Who's ever seen The Color Purple? It's extreme, but it's representative of a generation. That woman took a lot of abuse for no reason, other than the fact he thought she was ugly. But abused her mentally, physically, sexually. So by the time they got to the late 50s, early 60s, women said, I ain't taking this no more. I don't have to stay with you, you crazy. I say, what's that song, I Can Do Bad by Myself? Don't act like y'all don't know it. That's what they thought. And they said, we don't have to take this no more. So now they've separated the father from the family, whether by divorce or he just wasn't there anymore. Sometimes they'd have these families and completely leave their family. Had a family down the south, go up north. You ask them where your family is. They down south somewhere. But you've destroyed the family dynamic. You're destroying it. So now women are raising children, men and women children. This is not me saying that that's a bad thing. It's just not the dynamic that God intended. God intended for men to be in their children's lives for a reason. Amen. One, a man can't learn to be a man from a woman. That's right. Again, not to denigrate you all, but it's the truth. My son has learned a lot from his mother because she's strong, she's proud, she's hardworking, she's a good wife. But there are things like when he needs some correction, like real correction, like she can correct him, but she can't make him feel what I can make him feel. Cause I'm 5'7" on a good day. He about 5'9", 5'10". But I just told him that he taller than me. He ain't bigger than me. And until you've been hit by a grown man, I remember when my daddy hit me in my chest the first time I talked back. I was 13. And I thought that he was getting, small. I was getting kind of big. And, I was like, you can't keep talking to me this way. Hit me one time right here. All of Jesus and everything came back into my soul. My son the same way. I'm telling you, I got a hold of that boy so long one day, he grabbed a belt and started quoting scripture. He said, wait, 1 Thessalonians chapter. Me and my wife had to leave the room because we were laughing. And we needed to be serious. I said, this boy, the ghost done jumped into. I wish y'all could meet my children. Y'all would be like, these are the most because we will kill them. But the family is starting to disintegrate. So if the family is starting to disintegrate, then there is now a unit devoid of leadership. And the woman has to assume the role. The woman has to assume the role of house leader, father, provider, disciplinarian, and worship leader, because now they the ones taking the kids to church. Amen. Brother said churches is 80% women, and it's been that way for at least 2 generations. Amen. Amen. Spiritually, this generation abandoned traditional forms of worship. Y'all thought it was us in the generation after me. No. It was this generation. The baby boomers started to change because their thoughts about religion changed. They started to ask questions. Is God real? Is the Church of Christ the only church it's supposed to be? We taught a message for a long time. If you weren't in the Church of Christ, you was going to hell. Amen. We taught that for a long time. When actually, I don't know who's going to hell. I hope everybody here going to heaven with me. But I don't know who's going to hell. But we taught that fire and brimstone, and people bought into it, and we survived on it a long time. But when the technology came along that could kind of dispel some of what we were saying, people started to wonder if that stuff was true. We was just in the break room talking, break room like we at work, about, what were we saying? Whoopings. I can't remember what we were saying. Yeah. I don't know why it just slipped my mind. But let me just go on. So a group of baby boomers that never left the church, they were known as loyalists. They have a high level of commitment to both their denominations and their local assemblies. Boomers favor activism. Thus, they want to be involved, consulted in the church and its ministries. They wanted church to change from the traditional minister run everything type of situation. They wanted a more complete worship. Oh, I remember now. We were talking about the black Israelites. The black Israelites, there is a group of black people that think they were the original Hebrews that were in Egypt. When historically, slaves that were brought from Africa to America came from West Africa. I keep telling them, y'all ain't even from that part of the world. Why do y'all think that that's you? That's not you. But they'll tell these children that they are black Israelites. You the real Israelites. Don't believe what the Bible say. I think one of the brothers was talking about, somebody said you can't, the original Bible is wrong because it used the word Jesus and J didn't exist in the world back then. I said, you're right. It didn't. Because the language was written in Hebrew and Greek. I believe Jesus' name in the original is Yahweh. But who are we to be able to call Jesus by his real name? Who are we? And then, study your history. Yes, that's true, but there is a reason why. But the technology doesn't tell them that. They just tell them half-truths, and it's enough to create doubt. Generation X. The single greatest impact may have been divorce. These other things as well, but it's divorce. Because now this generation is growing up in a world that does not have a father in the home. I grew up without my real father. The man that raised me is not my father. He came into my life when I was about 9 or 10. My real father left my mama. We had a house, but he left her. We then had to move to the projects and live there until my mother could do better. She didn't want to accept welfare, which I didn't understand. I understood food stamps were good. But she didn't want any help like that. My mother that's why I married my wife. They the same kind of proud. Family experience. The children have become latchkey kids because my mother worked 2 jobs. She worked, everybody in churches, in Texas know churches. I don't know if y'all remember this store called Myers. But my mother worked at churches and at Myers. My mother makes some chicken you can't, whoo! I can't wait to get home. But she was not there. So I took care of my brothers. I was the oldest. So now I got responsibility at 7 and 8 that I shouldn't have. Man. And then I'm not really getting the training from a man that I should see. And it kind of skewed my view on things because some of my friends' daddies was at home and I thought, why ain't my daddy here? So when a man actually came in and was trying to date my mother, was a good man. He's still a good man. They've been married almost 30 years at this point. Still a good man. But when he got there, I was so angry. I was so angry that I couldn't let him be the father to me that he was trying to be. And it wasn't even his fault. But because I did it, my brothers did it. And even when my mother and him had a son, which is my youngest brother, he did it because I'm his oldest brother. And all because of a dynamic that was starting to break down. This is what I knew. This is what I grew up with. This was my culture. This was my world. See, now when you understand where children of a certain generation come from, then you understand how to deal with them. Don't just write them off and think that they're crazy or something. It's a reason that we came to such a situation. And most of the time it wasn't our fault. The only thing my real father taught me is that I would not be the man he was. I said, if I ever had a family and I ever had children, I don't care if we got to sit in a box together in the cold, we're going to be together. I would never leave. And that's the only thing that situation taught me, but it didn't teach everybody else that. Sometimes, when your father ain't around, that's what you know. You think you're supposed to leave if you get a girl pregnant. You ain't supposed to be able to take care of that responsibility. You don't have to. Mother's baby, father's baby. I know somebody know it. That didn't even come from my generation. That's why people know it. Somebody spoke on this. Absolute truth is foreign to this group. Did I question some of the things that went on in church? Yeah, I did. And I come from a preaching family. I've been Church of Christ all my life. I've never been anything else. But still I questioned it. I used to wonder why we got to be so dead when everybody else church, you could hear everybody else singing outside their church where we were. We were in Stop 6 at the time on Amanda Street. And our little church that had about 25 people was right here. Church up the road had 100. Church down the road had about 200-300. Church around the corner was great big. And no, they were not. But they were lively. They were lively. And we in there, unto the garden alone, while the dew is still on the... What it attracted to you to that? When you a young person, and now they got MTV on TV. They do. Them cars, they were just starting to get them big speakers in the back. I wanted one. I know Leonard wanted one. Still does. Leonard, up until I was about 38, I had cars with rims on them. I had a truck with 22-inch rims. My kids loved riding with. They thought I was so cool. And the people at church thought I was a cool preacher because I had a truck with rims on it. And then when I turned 40, I said, it's time to grow up. But absolute truth is foreign to this generation because we started to question it. But still, in this generation, technology was not yet as accessible as it is to the millennial. So we still had to kind of buy into what the older generation was saying. Because in my family, everything that I knew about in the year went by the church homecomings. I knew what time of year it was from the church homecomings. Dallas West, Mitchell Boulevard, bunch of them in Dallas, because we sang everywhere. We sang everywhere. My grandfather was the leader of the little family group. We called it the Hard Fighting Soldiers. Look, y'all about to remember in a minute. I was that little bitty fella in the three-piece suit, always following his grandfather. Because he was the man I saw, and he was the man I wanted to be. Even though I was fighting with a lot of the things that I did not understand. Organized religion can be perceived as a problem and not a source of salvation. In this generation, because of the access of TV, it actually started with the baby boomer generation, but because of the access of television, you now could see religious people messing up. I remember when Jimmy Swagger was on TV crying, I've sinned against you, Lord. I say, okay. I remember that. I remember in the late 80s when the Catholic Church and they scandals would start. People think that started in the late 90s. No, that started in the late 80s that it got exposed. And they put millions of dollars in it trying to cover it up. But we saw it. My generation saw it. My generation desires a church that addresses real needs. Sometimes we don't speak to what the people need. We speak a lot of scripture and we speak. Am I already out of time? God. Oh, man. I see. Okay, so well, then let me go on and get to the millennial then. The millennial greatest impact on this generation was 9/11, Columbine shootings, digital media, and child-focused world. So in this generation, what has changed for them is their reality. In my child's school, her reality is now that the police are there. They have a police station in school. Now, who grew up in a high school where the police station was in school? They have a task force that actually comes in, and like if these kids start fighting, they come in with they like little shields, like in prison, in the school. They now have to have training for if a gunman comes in and wants to blow everybody away. I never worried about that. I worried about if the people that was bullying me was going to bully me the next day. Or if I couldn't get through algebra, if my mama was going to kill me. The things that I worried about, they worry about if they go to school, am I going to get shot up today? And what has the church done to address any of this? Really? Good point. What have we done to speak to them to a level? Because in my mind, I always want to apply the scripture to their everyday life. It's a practical application of the scriptures to their life because it needs to become real to them because their reality is real to them. People coming into your school to shoot you up is a reality. But the breakdown of the family is also what has caused this. What causes somebody to go into a school and shoot it up? There's a lack of morality. Amen. The church for the first generation was its teacher of morality. You remove God from the school. You remove God from the family. You remove God from their life. So a child devoid of morality is not afraid of anything. And a child who is not afraid of anything is capable of doing everything. That is where the disconnection has come from. If we are going to try to repair that, then we have to realize that this is their world. This is the world that they live in. And we have to discuss those things realistically and don't dismiss them. I have teenagers. I listen to every goofball story they tell me. You know, my son actually thought, I'm keeping it real, Dad. They never grew up in the hood. I told him I grew up in the hood. People don't even believe that. I be like, I grew up in Butler housing projects. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. But because you come from a place don't mean you have to stay in that place. I went to college on a classical singing scholarship. I don't need no mic. But people thought that was silly, or they called me names, or he think he white, and I don't mean to offend nobody. I'm black, and I'm from a black world. But if you do things that black people don't typically do, they label you. Amen. They label you. But that's what has to happen with this particular generation. We have to address the needs and the reality that have become real to them. Man. And we can't dismiss it. You can't just be like, you're going to do what I say, that's what I say, and that's it. That worked at one time. It still worked for me. It still works on me. My mama still say it. But my children want explanations why they got to put out the trash. Now, I try. Because I come from Texas, I try to explain, but if you keep asking me or if you keep not putting that trash out, I'm going to stop talking. And when I get quiet, it's going to get real raucous around me. But I'm real. I let them know my flaws, my mistakes. I let people know I'm a preacher, but I'm not perfect. Preachers don't equal perfect. I was a regular person. I ran from it so long. My grandfather, before he got ill, asked me, he said, Nathan, you ain't never even tried to be what we were, trying to make you. And because I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be what I wanted to be, at least what I thought. But when I tried it and I saw how many people that I could affect by the message that I knew God had given me to give to the people, then I went into it. And then, but because somebody older talked to me, they didn't force me, they didn't make me. You know, he stopped trying to do that and just asked me. We got to stop trying to force these children into church and teach them about Christ so they want to come to church. And then give them some responsibility so they'll stay. You know, nobody wants to come. Who wanted to be the bench warmer in football? Who wanted to be that? Nobody does. Nobody does. We have to get better, and we have to do better with our millennial generation. Thank you very much. Amen. Amen.